Really, it says
Yeah.
ready to go live.
There you
Now
go.
it
The
says
live
live.
thing just came up. Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, I don't think we were live. That's
Well,
crazy. Hey guys, we've been talking. I didn't even see that. Oh boy.
that might be part of the problem. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to. I'm not going to see that. That's user error. That's just where I'm just
Well,
not
we had a
used to
grand
doing this.
conversation. So
Yes, we did. It's a
I
shame
even
they
missed my
missed it.
good joke
Now
about
and
breakfast.
now we got to go. It's over. No,
Yep.
it's not. Um, but I won't subject everybody to that music again. That's all right. I'll put it back in later because I know you can split the audio off, and that's the podcast intro. So that's neither here nor there. So, oh my gosh, let's see. Anyone out there? That's funny. See, these are all your people.
They're always around. Love them.
I did get into your Telegram.
Yes. Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, great to
Oh
have
my
you.
gosh, I popped it open a little while ago. It was like 74 things. I can't keep up with all of that.
That's our and ours. You should see the survival podcast one. I won't go in for
Oh.
2 days, and there'll be 2,000 messages. I'm like, nah, it's good.
And
I'll
see, I
check
don't.
it.
I have zero of the notifications turned on any of my social media just because
Yep.
it would blow my phone up all day long. So even no more than I'm on stuff, and I'm on all kinds of them. Some of the bigger older ones, and then so a few of the newer ones I've got accounts with, but I don't do a whole lot with yet. I'm not sure that's where I need to be on all of them, although I have an account set up. But so let's do this. I know that that uh, my friends know me and your friends know you, but my friends don't know either of you. And so if you'll both introduce yourself a little bit for a couple of minutes, tell us a little bit about what you do, what you don't do.
Sure. Well, she's going to do all the talking tonight. So no, I'm just kidding. That would put
That's
her right on.
fine. You know, that's
I
fine.
know.
Doesn't bother me.
I know. Yeah. So I'm Tim Cook, otherwise known as Toolman Tim, on
Uh-huh.
YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, the podcast feed, whatever, So you might have seen my ugly mug talking about generators or DeWalt tools at some point. On the Expert Counsel of Survival podcast. And yeah, we talk about preparedness, reparedness, all of that jazz. And this is my beautiful wife, Becky, next to me. She joins me on occasion on the podcast. Hey, babe?
Yep.
She got me out of a jam a couple of weeks ago. We had a very last minute guest cancellation. So she came on and we talked about Christmas. So
I listened to that. I did.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I was glad for that
we
one.
planned that in about a half an hour. That was about all we had. I was like, it's either I don't go or I go. And I'm definitely committed to my Sunday night live beyond anything else. So
Well, you have to be, and that's a challenge for me is trying to find the spot where it's going to work regularly.
Yep.
So, but Becky, tell us
Yep.
some about you.
Well, a little bit. Well, we've been married forever,
Yep.
I guess you could say. We've got 5 kids.
Okay.
They're 25, 23, 21, and then we have 12-year-old twins. And I own a daycare with my sister that we opened up actually going on almost
2.5. Yeah.
almost 3 years ago
Right
now.
in the middle of COVID.
Right in the middle of COVID. So her and I were entrepreneurs, and we just I work every day at the daycare and
Sure.
come home and I help him with his business and with the more, well, I wouldn't say so much of a handyman thing now. Between October and March, it's just basically snow
And property management.
property management. There's really no time for any handyman because, like, since beginning part of November, I don't think the snow has stopped. It's just ridiculous. But that's pretty much about it. Yeah, like we've
had about 2 feet of snow so far this year.
Yeah.
This morning I got up, it was minus 31. And for those who want it in freedom units, that is basically minus 31 because at minus 40, they meet. So it was, I don't care when you get that far down in the minuses, it's friggin' cold.
It was
So-
Yeah, that's just dumb. Why does anybody want to live in that? I don't know.
Make
And
good money with snow. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
And
fine.
you guys are in Alberta, yeah?
Oh
That's-
yes, yeah. So what some of my preparedness friends call northern North Dakota. That's where we are. So, which is actually Alberta, Canada, and we just bought 10 acres outside of Camden, Tennessee. So that is our away
that.
property, you know?
Yes.
So,
Little vacation, a little down south, because that's
yeah.
in the United States, that's considered down south. It's
There,
not
yes.
it's not the deep south, but it's down south.
I
It's,
don't think I'd want to go deep south.
it's south enough for us.
Yeah,
And we
south
have,
enough for me. Yeah.
we have so many like-minded friends in that area. We're
Yeah.
really excited. You know, I would say at some point, well, anywhere.
Well,
go,
we can't live down there
No.
because Canada has this thing. If you're gone for 6 months, then you basically lose everything,
Yeah.
like all your pensions and everything like
Yeah.
that. So, and then of course, then it's a hassle with healthcare and everything. Because where we have the healthcare up here, they take away your health card and everything, and I'm like, we can't lose that.
No,
So
yeah.
basically, be down for like 5 months and 28 days or something.
Yeah,
and we'll
so
come back up. So-
half a year minus 1 day. Is
Yeah.
what we
Yeah,
can
there's something like that in
Yeah.
the US, and it may be worldwide for the more developed nations. I'm not sure, but a friend of my father, he goes to Asia, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
lives down in there for X amount of time, but he has to come back every so often
Mhm.
and stay for
Yeah.
a period of time, and then before he can go back, or his citizenship is in jeopardy and stuff. I don't know.
Well, and
I don't.
Go ahead.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, as much as we'd love to live down in the States, we've basically worked since we were like 18.
Yeah.
Sure,
I'll
yeah.
be darned, that government's not taking my pension from me.
So true.
Well, and I'm not trying to jinx you or not trying to discourage you, but it is a different lifestyle. And once you're down here for a while, you might not be, it might not be your
understand.
cup of
Yeah.
tea. So yeah, but
Well,
then
our big
again,
thing is it's a vacation property until it needs to be more than a vacation property.
right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So, yeah.
Well, and plus a vacation property for our family and
Mhm.
friends too, if they want to
Sure.
go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything to get away from all of that snow. I just my mother's sister lived in Cleveland for most of her adult
that'll do
life,
it.
and just would get that lake effect, and of course they would probably not as much snow as you guys get, but it just a tremendous amount of snow every year, and I just I just my bones hurt when it snows and it gets that cold, and
Well,
I'm okay where I'm at. It gets cold. I mean, bitter cold, maybe a total of 2 weeks, not necessarily in a row, but you
Well, and
know,
believe it or not, though, when you're living near the lakes, because I grew up in Ontario, which was right across from
Yeah.
Port Huron, Michigan, they can get like minus actually feels
Oh, yeah.
colder than it does out here because
Yeah.
it's more of a wet cold, and so it goes right to your bones.
yeah,
Here it's a dry cold. You could be outside and you're like, oh, it's cold, but as soon as you go in, you warm up. But
Yeah.
with that wet cold, you don't warm up as easy as you do out here.
yeah.
And they get
no,
way
it's-
more snow than we do.
Yeah.
That lake effect, yeah. This is odd for us to have 2 feet this time of year. So because it's so dry, we're kind of I wouldn't call it a desert climate, but pretty damn close,
Yeah,
And so we don't get a ton of moisture. We've actually been in a drought for, I don't know, a couple of years now, so anytime we get snow, it helps. But yeah, we don't get the precipitation that the coast get for sure.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's so
No, I listen.
you go ahead. I think we have a delay there. Sorry,
Mhm.
Robin.
Yeah, I just maybe a little bit. I listen. I have a see if it's here. It's on the charge, but well, I'll unplug it because of course it's a Bluetooth headband,
Oh,
and,
cool.
and it's got
one of those.
speakers in them. Amazon, Amazon's
yeah.
got everything. And what I do is I'll wear this all the time, and it's paired up with my Kindle and my phone, but mostly I listen to the YouTubes on the Kindle,
Okay.
and it'll be, it's got a pretty good range. I can pretty much do whatever I need to through the house and not lose the signal from it. And so I'll stream yours, and I'll stream Jax, and I'll stream John, and I'll stream Nicole, and I'll stream a bunch of other ones like all day. And I'm just like you do audiobooks, and
Yeah.
I'm just listening to them while I'm doing all my stuff. And so I've probably caught up on everybody in the few months that I've been listening, probably years worth of stuff, and the Bonds, and
Mm.
I was trying to think of who else.
Billy is so good. I just got turned on to Billy maybe 6 months ago, and he is
Mhm.
that is one smart. Well, him and his son, so good. So I could listen to him. When I first heard him talk, I'm like, he has a voice for radio.
And he's
And
had radio yeah, he was,
exactly. He was an AM talk radio guy. And I think that's
Mhm.
why him and I got along so well, because there's just something I always loved talk radio. Spent years as a kid listening to it, and
Yeah.
probably listening to stuff I didn't even understand, but I just always had talk radio on in the background, and always enjoyed it.
Yeah. I'm a little older than you are, and back in the day when I was young, I had a little transistor, and I could pick up WLS out of Chicago, and
Nice.
I'd listen to at night, when
Yeah.
it's all that signal travels so much further, and I'd listen to it. But I did. It was just once a week, but it was about 4 months of a local AM talk back in. Oh shoot, I want to say 2005, 2004,
Nice.
2005. Um, one of our local school board officials was running for reelection, and he had a regular spot on the local show. And so when they're actively campaigning, running for election, they can't
Sure, that
be
makes
on
sense.
that show. So the guy that was it was his talk show, and the school board guy was the co-host, and so he was looking for somebody, and we had some mutual friends, and we were all out and run into each other, and he said, "You want to do it?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know."
That would be
I
fun.
don't know, but it was very interesting to be in the studio and to see how things were working. I mean, and I did get paid, so technically, I guess I was a professional, but um, it was very interesting to see what was happening, because when you just have the radio on, you don't see all the stuff behind the scenes, and it's not like
Sure.
television, because you can't see the DJs and the announcers and the program managers and all that stuff. And so it was very interesting to do that. Plus, I got paid for it. Plus, I was taking vacation time off of my regular job, so I was getting paid twice
Double dip, right on.
for 3 hours a week. So it was really interesting. Met a lot of interesting people. Had a lot of um, heated debate. Yeah,
Sure.
because it was a very political show. So AM radio tends to be that down here. So
Yes, it
was,
does. It's up
and
here
and
too. So.
and I'm very opinionated on many things, and not afraid to tell people that. But yeah, it was fun. Like I said, I did that from mid-January to the first part of May. So
Nice.
it was a blast. Well, so now that we've got all that out of the way, part of the reason that I asked you to do this was to talk a little bit about some of the basic tools and I'm focusing on from the female perspective. Obviously, I know some guys have this ingrained because you're guys, and you grow up knowing all this stuff or hearing all this stuff, and it comes second nature. And for some of us females, it doesn't. I was in the split. My dad didn't see, girls didn't learn all of this stuff. But a few years after, I got grown, then it was all, girls were being taught all this stuff and going to
Sure.
shop class and all that stuff. So I was kind of in that transition period. But I wanted to ask you for some of your thoughts about what tools women need to have in the home to take care of some, minor emergency things that may arise, especially through the winter time, and also in their vehicles. And then I think I mentioned to you that I would be interested in getting Becky's opinion as to whether she thinks there's something different that you might need, because we do things differently sometimes. And while putting a picture on the wall with a hammer is kind of generic, everybody needs a hammer and a nail to put a picture on the wall. Maybe there's something else that
Oh,
we
there
might
is.
handle
there is.
differently.
We got something we use that is way better than a hammer and nail. So I'll save that for the end, but we do.
High
So.
heel shoes is probably
Oh,
it.
no, I'll tell you, it's good though. But so let me start with, we have 5 kids, 4 of whom are girls. Our first one is a boy, Mackenzie, and the next 4, Olivia, Grace, Charlotte, and Alice, all girls. And we have done our damnedest to make sure that they are independent. So, Olivia, You know, as soon as she started driving, I had her out changing her tires, learning a bit about changing oil. Probably give her a little too much confidence because she's got herself in over her head a few times, but I'd rather go that way than the opposite, right? Grace, love her. She just, a tool's never scared her, has it? She just loves it. So when I'm going to give a confession here. So, you know, I'm a DeWalt person, but when I first really got into DeWalt, I had a Milwaukee drill set. And so Gracie inherited my Milwaukee drill. She uses it all the time. She is so good with that. And the younger ones, they're coming along. They're coming along. So, but I don't know. Have you ever heard of pink tax? So basically what it is that products for women cost on average 7% more. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay, yes.
Here's my thing. I used to work at what we call Home Hardware up here. It's a big hardware store. And there would always be, it was usually for breast cancer or something. There would always be something bright pink, whether it was a hammer or a multi-bit screwdriver that was positioned for women. And it was always a piece of junk. Always. You know, to me, it looked like they just used it as an excuse. They painted some piece of crap they couldn't sell pink. And they say, here, it's for women. So my thing is, I give a lot of thought to this week, put some notes together. But my big thing was, for the most part, a basic home toolbox for anybody, whether it's a man or a woman or somebody just moving out, the basics are about the same. You know, some things change, you know, if you have smaller hands or, you know, whatever, whether it's a smaller man or a smaller woman, whatever, you might want a lighter hammer, you know, that kind of stuff. But overall, I would say that the basics are about the same. What do you think, baby?
Nope, they are. Now I find, well, going back to the girls.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, it was myself, then my brother, then my younger sister, and there's like a 4.5 year gap between my brother and myself. And when I met Tim, I knew more about vehicles than he did.
Absolutely.
Because my dad taught me everything, and I think a lot of it was because he just didn't want me calling him every day about something. And right from when I was 7, 8 years old, I was in the garage with him, helping put motors in, changing tires, using tools, using all kinds of that stuff. And I grew up when we had our first daughter, I was like, okay, no, my girls are going to know how to do everything.
Yep.
And even without tools, like Olivia, you could put her in the middle of the woods. She knows how to butcher a pig. She knows how to butcher chickens. She'd be the one that definitely would survive in the woods longer than our son would.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think our son would just crawl up in a ball and start crying. But
where's my Gatorade?
Yeah, where's my Gatorade and my Xbox? But like all our girls, we want them to be independent. But with the tools, I do find, like with the basics, like for example, with Tim's hammer, I can't use his hammer.
Right, because it's a big ass old 20-ounce hammer,
and it's too heavy for me. And I find even trying to hit it, like I can't even get the strength to hit it. And so like I have to use the smaller hammers, but I find the fiberglass ones are a lot nicer.
No vibration.
There's no vibration because like with the issues, like you get the cramping in your hands, and but I find the wood one just kills your fingers. And most women always, I don't know, when they get about my age, they always have issues with your hands. It's I don't know if it's a thing, like, and of course the cold makes it worse. And and of course when we opened up the daycare, my brother-in-law thought he was being cute, and he brought Amy and I a pink multi-bit screwdriver. He's like, oh look, I went and bought it for you. It was like $18, and he's like, oh, and it's fancy pink. No word of a lie, we used that twice, and it like, I'm just like him, I break everything. So it's like, and it broke, and I was like, this is the biggest piece of junk out there. And so like now we just use a basic screwdriver, and even some of his screwdrivers are too heavy for me. So yeah, like I wish they had something that was more catered for smaller hands, but I find just lightweight ones, that's what I find works a lot better for me.
It's fun to let her talk, because anything I say comes off as sexist. So,
Nah,
I'm like,
nah.
no,
I
I
don't
know.
work that way.
I know.
I know there's a lot of people who do, but I
know.
don't.
So I'm
I don't.
like,
Because
I'm
there's
like,
some real.
okay, well, if you have
there's-
tiny little hands,
That's
no,
right.
just kidding.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
and another thing too, like with I find the impact drivers, they scare me, and I think it's because it's a newer tool,
Yeah.
and there's so much
There's so much power.
There's so much power, and
Yeah.
I can't seem to find that sweet spot. And I think every screw I put in last summer with that impact driver, I stripped the head on it because
I do
and
that.
I'm just like, and I'm full tilt 0 to 60, and then boom,
Yeah.
it strips, boom, it
Yeah.
strips. And of course, and then you don't realize how powerful it is, and then you touch it, and I singed my hand a couple times on it, and so I'm not a huge fan of the DeWalt impact driver. Like, even though I know it's an incredible tool, but unless you know what like the power, but I find men where they have the bigger finger, they have more control over that. But with me,
and
it's like,
they have the arm strength. There's some biological differences that we just
Yep.
can't overcome, and men have the upper arm strength and the arm strength and the hand strength that we just we don't have naturally as a rule.
exactly.
One thing I
And,
gotta get you that I haven't yet. Rachel Brown in the comments said that she likes her cordless tools and her cordless screwdriver.
Mhm.
And so for a lot of people with smaller hands, the cordless screwdrivers are a great option. And I got to get one and test them out for people because they're in between a drill, an impact driver. They look like a little lock picking gun. They're about
Right.
yay big, and you
Mhm.
can hold them, and they'll put a screw in no problem all day long. But they don't have all that torque
I'll
that
strip
that little Miss Cook here loves to turn from 0 to 140, and then she'll be like, "Honey, I didn't get it in all the way. Can you fix it?" And I'm like,
or
"Well,
can you take it out? It's in the wrong spot."
the
All stripped.
square is now a circle, and I need a hammer or a multi-tool to cut it off." So yeah.
Or one of those oh, I forget what they're called, but you tap them into the
The
screw.
drill outs or tap and dot.
To
Oh, I
take
stripped
to back
so
them
many
out.
screws.
Yeah.
But it happens,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one thing I should say before I go too far, and I preach this, I did a presentation at Prepper Camp on home maintenance, preparedness is what I call it. So
Mhm.
help, maintenance for help when help isn't around the corner, and that's how it works no matter what. But the first thing everybody needs to do is have a central location, like a toolbox or a junk drawer. But you need to have a
Oh my
place for
gosh.
your tools.
How
I
many
know.
of those do you need?
Oh,
I've
Jesus,
got
too
like
many.
3
Yeah.
junk drawers and 2.
I think I have like
Toolbox.
6.
But
And those are just
everything is big.
mine. Those don't
have
count
big-
his.
I have big freezer bags with everything in it.
Oh, I have a few of those too. Yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
I have a few of them.
If you have a fire and you can't find even if you've got 12 fire extinguishers, but you can't
Mhm.
find one of them, you might as well
Right.
not have any, right? So
Exactly.
if you need a screw, if you need to put a screw in a wall or you need to pull a nail out, or heaven help you, say you need a wrench to turn off the water main because you went to go turn off your water main and all of a sudden the damn thing come off in your hand, right?
Mhm.
So if you need that and you can't find your tool, you might as well not have the tool, right?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
A few years back when I just started my business, my brother-in-law for Christmas got me one of these. It's kind of a plastic metal hybrid toolbox, about yay big. And so I have what I call my grab and go toolbox. And
Mhm.
whenever I go for a service call or a handyman job, that toolbox and my drill bag goes with me, because as long as I put my tools back, I know where they are. And so
Right.
if there's an emergency, whether it's for you, like that time we had a flare up on the barbecue and you knew where the fire spray was, or I have to go and shut off the water quickly at a rental, the first thing I know is I have everything here. I can grab it and go. And so no matter what you have with your tools, the first thing, it's the same as having, say, I have a couple of flashlights in my bedside table. So if the power goes out, I know where the flashlights are. And if you need to fix something or solve an issue, the first thing is to have a central location, wherever that might be, for sure.
Yeah.
And for women, that would be a junk drawer.
Yes, and that's why I say that.
Because every woman that is listening right now,
Oh yeah.
where
Or
you
will in
never
the future.
you never remember where you put anything, right? I
This is so
never
true.
remember. Never.
true.
I will look through about 6 junk drawers before I find what I'm actually looking for, but I know it's in one of those drawers.
Now there are some things that I'm bad that way with, but there are some things that I have just enough OCD in some areas that I do have a little, and yes, one of the little pink and black Stanley.
Sure.
It's just a little teeny tiny hammer and a little teeny tiny screwdriver and a little teeny tiny wrench, and that's in a drawer. You know, the only thing I've really ever used out of it's the hammer. You know, but and then I do have a cordless drill that stays plugged in all the time. I don't know if that's destroying the battery or not, but it stays there. No, it's not a drill. It's a screwdriver. Sorry. There's some
That's all right.
fine differences in that. It's actually a cordless screwdriver. But, and those things, I know exactly where they are. The fire extinguishers, I have those little cans that you get at the hardware store. That's like the aerosol, not the big.
They're
Okay.
incredible. I have them on our list.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I have one in the kitchen in the cupboard. So if the stove catches, I just have to turn around and grab it. I have one at the top of the stairs between the bedrooms where our guest room and our room is, and I have one at the our basement. This is a 1920s house, and our basement has a concrete block ledge, and then windows.
Yep.
That look out into a window well, and it sits there at the bottom of the stairs. So if you're starting down the stairs and there's smoke coming up and you're starting down the stairs, you can just grab it off that little ledge. But so those things I know exactly where they are. Anything else, a rubber band, a piece of twine, couldn't help you.
Nope.
It'll take me a week to find them.
I see Andrew over on Facebook. He said the 12-volt Milwaukee fuel impact driver is pretty manageable. I forgot about those. Those are really light. And they have, if you get one of the low-powered 12 volts from Milwaukee, they're manageable for smaller hands.
Right,
so
strip screws with them.
you might, but we can get you a drill too. So
you need to set her up a practice board, so that she can just practice.
that's actually a good idea. You know what? So talking about that kind of stuff,
That's
because
what we did with the kids.
there are times, if no matter what. So for instance, Becky pays basically all the bills. So if there's a day that she's sick in bed and something needs to be paid, I'm kind of hooped because I don't necessarily know how to do that. And I should. So then I go and ask her, anyway. So
and then I get irritated.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, you
Now,
should know this.
if there's a power outage, for the most part, up until recently, I would have been the only one handling the generator. However, we just did it once so far. I watched her struggle to pull the generator out of the garage, bring it out and start the whole thing, hook it up herself. We're going to do it 2 or 3 more times to make sure she can. So whether you're, the husband or the wife in a relationship, even if you don't care to do certain things, take some time and learn how to do that kind of stuff. Because, there's a lady I used to work for. Her husband died unexpectedly, quite a bit younger than you would think. And there was so many things that she just had no clue about because she never bothered to just, either watch or listen or learn. And that could be something simple. It could just be, hey, I'm out of town. The car broke down. I'm not going to be home for 5 days. There's a snowstorm coming. You might need to know where the generator is, right?
Well, and for example, when you came out here.
Right.
I was,
oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
I was out east in Nova Scotia, and we were in 130-year-old house. And he was out here for 6 months, and I was home with the 5 kids by myself, and we lost middle of a snowstorm, and we only had fire heat. But the kids and I were splitting wood. We were starting fires, and then we lost power for 5 days, and we didn't have a generator, but we had a wood burning stove, and we kept the fires going in there.
Good.
Yeah,
Sure.
it was. But you have to know how to do all that stuff. Like the whole, I think, it's the whole damsel in distress doesn't work anymore. You have to be able to be independent.
Yep. I would like to believe that, but then I look at the larger cities, the New Yorks, the San Franciscos, and those cities where they're so dependent on, running. Nobody cooks. I mean, you might fix a sandwich, but nobody cooks in their place. They all go out to eat and all these things. And I think how helpless, because it hasn't been, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it hasn't been too many years 4 or 5 maybe that they had that grid down in New York, and
Yeah.
that all of that was, and I kept thinking all these people in these high rises that are, you know, 20 and 30 stories up with no electric, and they can't get out, and maybe they can't, I don't know if they can open their windows or not that high, you know, I would think not, but you know, what are these poor people doing? And you know, so many of them have not a clue, have not a clue.
And
And
most have a day's worth of food on hand at
Yep.
most,
oh
or
yeah,
less.
yeah, because they don't cook, they don't
Yeah.
need it, they're always eating out, you know.
But what makes it worse for us, that, well, what we taught our girls too is like,
Mhm.
in that type of situation, what makes it even more like, what makes it worse is when you're a woman and you're 100% relying on a man
Yes,
for that. Like
yes,
because like, you know, like, and it's okay to depend on your man, and it's okay to, but there's a lot of
Oh,
single
yeah.
women out there that
right.
that
There's some
need
things
to
you
be
need to
able
know.
to
Mhm.
know, like, because like our youngest girl Gracie lives on her own. She's
Mhm.
single, and she does everything on her own. And
Yes.
there are some things where she'll call up dad and she'll be like, "Hey dad, I need help with this, I need help with that." And the first thing we always say to her, "Did you try?"
Right.
Right.
Every single
Every
time.
time, because I don't want them to be that type of person that can't take care of themselves.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's I in my experience, this same aunt of mine that lived in Cleveland, she was from the generation she didn't drive, you know, because she
Right.
was her
Mhm.
husband was in the Second World War, so she was, you know, a housewife all of that time. So from the 40s, you know, and so she didn't drive, she didn't write the bills out, she didn't do any of that stuff. She went to the grocery store and a few of those type of things, but she could walk to that. And but So when her husband started getting ill in his advanced age, and strokes and different things, and she had no clue, she had no
Yep.
idea, she was totally dependent on the neighbors as best as she could, because that area of town where she lived in was starting to um well,
Get rough.
it was getting bad, you know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
the bad elements were moving in.
Sure.
Luckily for her, they her house was never a target of some of the things that went on, and um in her lifetime. But yeah, that was bad. And when I was coming up, and now my dad he wasn't going to teach me to weld, and he wasn't going to teach me to build you know, rebuild engines or change oil. I do know how to change oil. I've only done it a couple of times, but I do know the idea of it and those basic things. But um he did teach me to drive a standard
Well,
Yep.
you
transmission.
know
So
what?
you know, I can drive just about anything that's out there.
I
And
didn't learn till I was 32. Never learned how
oh,
to drive a
well,
standard oil.
you
And now I
did,
have
you
my
did
class
learn.
1. But yeah, I didn't
So,
never had
very
a
good.
yeah. So hey, shit
Yeah.
happens. You got to learn it, right?
But I was talking to the young man that was stitching me up today, and uh, he was talking about, he has an older vehicle. We was talking about our trucks and different things, and he's got a Ford, the 2005. I think he said it was a 2005 Ford Ranger, and it was the manual transmission. And I said, you know,
Mm,
you can't get a manual transmission pickup truck anymore. Not here.
nope, you can't.
Yep.
Mm-mm, no. And you can if they're the large, like
Mhm.
1 tons and commercial trucks, but the regular Joe pickup truck you can't, unless you special order it, and then that's a nightmare. But yeah, I learned to drive a standard, and when my son was married, he married fairly young, and his young wife, um, you know, she didn't drive, and I sent her, at the time we had a driving school here. It's since gone, but I paid for her to go to driving school, and she couldn't understand why. And I said, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, if my son gets hurt and he has to go to the hospital and you don't know how to drive, I'm going to be kind of upset.
Yep.
And I said, then also, I know my son, I know his gene pool. If anything ever happens between you two, you need to be able to drive.
Right.
You know, so
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
to be out on your own, honey, you need to know how to do these things. So yeah, I mean, it's really, kids don't think a lot about it anymore. You know what a big deal it is to be able to drive and have that independence and be able to do things. And that's very similar with, you know, I can split the wood for the wood fire, and I can start the generator and in case of an emergency or something when people are gone. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's very, very similar.
I put a little list together of a few things, and this, I guess, so we put together a, how do you want to put it? An emergency kit and
Sure.
a basic tool kit for our kids this year, the 3
Mhm.
adults. So because when you're struggling for money, or you're new out living on your own, a lot of things. The last thing you worry about buying is a decent quality screwdriver or a hammer,
Yeah.
because when you're worried about food or gas, right? So
Mhm.
we put that together for them, and some of this is the same. But so you need a hammer, you need something that is going to fit your hand and it's not going to kill your shoulder, right? You need a tape measure because you need to know how far things are away, or whatever, right? If nothing else, you need a single good quality multi-bit screwdriver. Now, my dad had one. I think it's probably still in the junk drawer back home. It's that old Bakelite green plastic. It's
Oh yeah.
kind of translucent, and
Yeah.
it'd probably been around since, I don't know, probably since Noah was on the ark. I'm not sure, but and I think it still had 5 of the 6 original bits. So, but you got to have one, and you need a flashlight, because everybody needs a flashlight. But here's the thing: don't take a flashlight, throw it in your junk drawer, and think, okay, I'm good. Take it out and check it every so often, and change the batteries, or don't leave batteries in it, right?
Yeah. I've come across more than one of these little teeny tiny ones, like would fit on a key ring, and the batteries are corroded, and it's just like, well, this is, I might be able to salvage this. How many kids out there today understand how to use baking soda to get the corrosion out? But it was $1. Is it worth all of that? It's so, yeah.
And here's the thing. Okay. The only time you're going to find that is 1 or 2 times, either when you do an inspection on it or when you go to use the damn thing. And if you go to use it, it's probably because the power's out. And
Right.
so the last thing you want to be doing is going looking for baking soda in the middle of a power outage.
Yeah, exactly.
So just either, honestly, if you're going to store it long term, take the batteries, throw them in a Ziploc, and tape them to the flashlight.
Sure.
But if you're
Yeah.
not, check your flashlight every 6 months. I mean, you know me, I have an addiction to flashlights. I own way too many, but just check them. Keep rechargeables around. Standardize on a certain type of battery, whether it's AAA or AA.
I saw you talking about that, and talking about some different adapters that you could get that make AA's fit to
Yeah,
AA's fit a C, or
Yeah.
what was that? I think about
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
fascinating to me.
so-
I have never seen those.
I called her a while ago when I went down south there for 2.5 weeks. Had a great time, and I was at Cracker Barrel, and I said, "Hey, hon, I want to bring you home some Christmas decorations." And of course, one we fell in love with was like this old-fashioned floor model TV. It's about yay big, and it has like a snow globe in it with plays music, and a beautiful thing.
Okay.
So I picked it up, no thought of it. I bring it home. The damn thing takes C batteries. We don't keep C batteries in the house. We just don't, because I've standardized on AA, AAA, and then of course we have some of our rechargeable 9 volts for certain things. So I thought, geez, how are we going to solve this? So I started looking, and they make these sleeves that'll take my AA or AAA batteries. You can slide them up inside, and it turns your AA's or AAA's into a C or a D battery. So just picked them up recently, and we're going to use them so that we don't have to keep. Because the thing is, I like using the rechargeables because you always have them. You don't have to throw them out all the time. And so if I can throw some of those rechargeables into a sleeve and use them, why not, right?
Well, and this snow globe just chews up.
Oh,
batteries,
yeah, it
too.
does.
It's just-
Really?
I have it running all the time because it's like
Oh,
a little
okay.
motor.
It's really
and
cute.
Yeah, but I leave it running at night, and it's just chewing up batteries. So I'm just like, we need some rechargeables in there, I think.
A mini little socket set's good to have, not a huge one. You don't, the last thing a person needs is something that weighs 32 pounds, has 800 pieces, and you
Yeah.
got nowhere to stash it,
Yeah.
Get yourself, Dad always had one. We just pick one up for the kids. Hopefully they're not watching, so we don't ruin their Christmas surprise. But, something that's like 5x7, like a 5x7 photo, you can take it, throw it in a drawer.
Mhm.
And something a lot of people don't think about is a good step stool or a good mini folding, like 2-step ladder, because
Yeah.
in your house, unless like you got an old house, so yours might be taller, but I mean, 9 times out of 10, your ceilings are going to be 8 feet. Ours were 9 down Digby Neck. So with
Yeah,
a
these
good
are taller.
2-step ladder, you can reach anything safely. So invest in something good. I hate going there, but IKEA sells these really nice heavy duty poly step stools. They're only 1 step, but they're quite high. And
They're like $5.
Yeah,
and they're like
$5.
the best ones we've ever had.
And I have used the blue one in my business for 4 or 5 years, and I've never broke it. So if you want to be safe, the last thing you want to be doing is some of the stupid shit I've done over the years, like stepping on a 5-gallon bucket to try to, right? Or
I do
stepping
that
on
all
a
the
chair.
time.
Have something
Yeah,
safe,
I do that. I've fallen off a chair more than once on my front porch.
Oh,
Think it just tips right over with me.
a good utility
Yeah.
knife. I like the folding ones that take the old style razor blades because they're a lot sturdier and safer. They tend to fold out and they hold the blade. Whereas, the ones that have they call them an Olfa knife a lot, and they'll extend out and you break them off.
I have some of those.
Yeah.
Like I always called them box cutters.
Yeah, exactly. And I find they're a little dangerous. They can be. You can either overextend them, they'll break off, they'll fly, so I like the folding utility knives because they fold down low and then they're good and sturdy, aren't they, babe, for open boxes and stuff.
But with the folding utility knife, I do have a hard time opening
Fair enough.
and closing them. I like the little tiny skinny box cutter.
Oh yes, right.
And it's got the little tiny metal in there, and then when the blade, you can just press the blade and snap it against something, and it breaks off because I can hold it. But the big utility knives that he uses, I can open them, but I can't. Sometimes I can't close them because my hands won't work.
Makes sense,
and I find even using them, they're heavy.
And you're using them for different purposes.
Yeah.
He's doing them for heavy duty, and you're doing them to open boxes. I mean,
well, he's got the knife
lighter
from Patrick, and I even have a hard time with that one. So
yeah, this right here.
Yeah, like it because it's so sharp, and I'm afraid I'm going to cut myself on it. And I have a habit of cutting myself all the time. So it's just. But I find those little tiny box knives.
Yeah, those are
the
good.
best ones. I like those. And then the only thing you got to watch those when you're snapping the metal off that doesn't come up and hit you in the eye or anything, because sometimes they do fly off.
If you need a recommendation for those, I actually used one of those at Home Hardware for 10 years, but buy the metal ones. They'll hold up better. Olfa, O-L-F-A, they make a good knife, but just get one that's metal, and then that's one less failure point, And another thing a lot of people don't know, on those box cutters, the little tip on the end the blade doesn't come out of, you can take that end off, slide it on the end of the blade, and then snap your piece off. There's a little slit in there for doing that. So
I saw that somewhere. I haven't tried it, but I did see that somewhere, and I just have a little skinny one. It's not any bigger than a nail file, but
yeah, that's like yours.
I haven't tried to see if that works on mine. It probably does.
With Rachel.
Rachel, would you say?
I'm only 5'4". I climb on the back of the couch when I'm like, I scale all the furniture. I was standing on the back of the couch putting his surround sound wire up in there.
And there is a beautiful step stool out in the kitchen that folds out nicely, and it's 2 good steps right there.
But at least
it wasn't in the room she needed.
That's true. Yeah.
But if you
need
fall,
one in there,
at least I'm hitting the couch. I'm not hitting the floor. I got a cushioning, right?
And some more of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to sound like a bit of a, I don't know what the word for it is, but do as I say, not as I do. But safety gear is really important. And I'm not the best example for that, because I'm the guy that went to outpatients twice in 8 days to get stuff removed from my eye because I was too damn stubborn to wear safety glasses. But I've gotten better, haven't I?
Yeah.
With safety glasses, I have, yes.
Yeah.
So get yourself some safety glasses, some gloves. If you're going to do anything loud, get some of them disposable foam ear protections, Yeah,
I have a bunch of those.
A headlamp, and I know you don't use them as often, but anytime you're doing any work, and it could be anywhere, or a power outage, I love headlamps because it leaves your 2 hands empty.
Barrett loves them too.
Yes, my brother-in-law loves them too. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
you can make fun of me. It's all right.
His actually Barrett, our nephew, spilt some pop the other day at their house. And my sister came out of the bathroom, and Barrett had his headlamp on. He was cleaning the pop from underneath the coffee table. And she just looked at him and walked away. She's like, I don't know. But he uses a headlamp.
At least he was cleaning it up.
Yeah.
And a good first aid kit too. And it doesn't need to be, or if nothing else, know where your Band-Aids and things are. We have, my dog's at the door trying to get in.
Daisy's trying to get in.
We bought a couple of, the Rubbermaids, but they have locking latches on the sides, and they have a rubber seal around them. We bought a couple of those, and they're waterproof. You can take them and run with them. We have our first aid kits in there. But whatever it is, know where you can go, whether it's a roll of electrical tape or a box of Band-Aids, know where you can go to get something to stop the bleed. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're doing work around your house, your injury is going to be something that causes you to leak.
Or carving pumpkins.
Yes, carving. Yeah, our girls' very first Halloween, they were dressed up as bunnies, beautiful little girls. We were all excited to go out Halloween, and for some reason we decided to wait until the very last night of Halloween to carve our pumpkins. And Becky decided that she was going to stab the pumpkin with her hand on the blade, which was fine.
Almost took
on
my
the
pinky-
handle.
the tip of my pinky.
However, once she got the guts on her of the pumpkin, and then we went to do the next one, she went to do it. Her hand slipped down. Her pinky went right through the blade and damn near severed a digit. So we were at the emergency room on Halloween night getting her stitched up before we could take the kids out Halloweening. So, but I've done it too. I can't say much. So, yeah. Oh, and Rachel Brown says cornstarch is a great quick clot. And
We
yes,
use that for the dogs when we do their nails.
I've had that for the dogs too.
Yeah.
we had goats years ago, and we used them for when we over trimmed their hooves. We put it on there too.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have thought of it. I would have grabbed flour if I had to have, but the husband, he cut himself. I forget what he was doing and how exactly why, but he cut a finger, and it didn't look like much as long as he didn't bend. And the minute he bent, he spurted because he clipped he clipped a little artery. I mean, it wasn't huge. It wasn't like gallons, but it was just enough that, he's like, oh, I'm fine. And he did the paper towel and the black tape, and I'm like, no, you got to go. That's not going to work. So he ended up having, I think it was 3 stitches he ended up with.
Yeah, and he comes in with the electrical tape. I'm like, what did you do now?
That's right. Yeah, no. That's just long enough to get you to the hospital there or the urgent care facility. That's all the black tape's good for. It's not permanent.
There's nothing medicinal in the electrical tape. I always thought there was, So
his injuries are usually on the top of his head, so you can't put tape up there.
And I'm just like my father. It's not like you're gonna walk around with a damn hard hat on your head. But one day Dad called me and he's like, yep, I just got back from ER, I got stitches. And I'm like, what the hell did you do? And he went in the basement. And it's an older house, so the ceilings are only about 6.5 feet. But then you put the ductwork in there, and you know where they put seams.
I know exactly.
Great big gash down the middle of his forehead or his top of his head with stitches. So I do it. I bet you at least one. Oh well, here's what I do. So do as I say, not as I do. I work off a 6-foot step ladder almost all the time, or an 8-foot or a 10-foot. Now, when I go up, I take a hammer with me or a drill, and then I set it on the top of the ladder, and then I climb down, and then I move the ladder, and then the drill comes down and hits me in the head.
And then I get a visit at the daycare. Can you look at my head? I think I need stitches.
So don't be stupid like Tim. That's all. Yeah.
Just grab the stapler and just go to town on him. That'll teach him. Yeah. He'll learn that way.
I won't. That's the problem.
He won't.
I should. I really try. I teach a lot of people about it, and I'm bad with gloves too. That's my biggest. I hate gloves, but please wear gloves. So many injuries I've had over the years that would have been just fine without if I was wearing gloves. So just wear hand cover if you're. This wouldn't have fixed it, but I drove an air nail through my finger one day. So just don't do stupid things. That's all.
My husband gave me a pair. Where he works for the power company, he gets. He has access to all kinds of stuff, and he brought home these gloves that they don't. I mean, it's not. You couldn't take a hatchet, but they're supposed to stop like barbed wire and minor small saws and nails and metal from getting through. And I thought, well, they just look like plain old gloves to me. But I've used them to do. Stuff that I was absolutely shocked that they could cactus didn't get through them. It was hysterical. Cool. I was messing with a cactus and it didn't get through them. So he brings it, but now I can't the leather gloves and stuff like that are just absolutely too clunky. To me, it's almost worse than not having gloves at all.
And the women's gloves are useless. I find.
Yeah, they're too tiny. There's not a happy medium for me. So yeah, because the ladies' gloves are like garden gloves. gloves.
I was just gonna say they're thin like garden gloves, and they don't do. Even I wear garden gloves when I'm doing gardening, and I still get dirt under my nails and everything. I'm just like, I don't know why I bother wearing them. It's just like they're
Truly.
supposed to protect you, but
Yeah.
Andrew over there in the chat, he was asking about a decent set of sockets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big believer in, my dad always said, buying quality pays, buy the best you can afford. Now, as long as you take good care of it. And I mean, she bought me a set of Stanley sockets about 15 years ago, and I still have them. So if you buy a decent quality set, and it doesn't have to be $1,000 set, but buy a name you recognize, it's going to last you. But if you're looking for something to have in a junk drawer or a small toolbox, look for something that has 1/4 inch and 3/8 drive. 1/2 inch is more for like automotive, the big ones. So look for, and again, if you don't go with 1/2 inch, you go with 3/8 and 1/4 inch, it's going to be lighter and smaller and more compact. But look for something that has a few of the deeper sockets in it as well. You don't need a ton, but just look for something that has a good assortment of sockets. And I really like the painted ones. So she got me the red ones, and they just seem to hold up a little better because you kind of, I don't know, you take better care of them if they have the black paint or the red paint on them, but whatever. And they can be silver, but if you buy yourself a decent brand, whether it's Stanley or DeWalt or Milwaukee, anything like that, or Craftsman, now they used to be really, really good, but they
don't know about Craftsman anymore.
Yeah. No, and they're not
they've
nearly
been bought
as good
and
as
sold a couple different times, and it's like they're just not.
DeWalt owns their brand now.
Do they?
But the problem is that they don't create the tools. It's mostly offshore stuff now. So just pay attention to it. But yeah, if you get yourself a decent set of sockets and you're not a professional mechanic, they'll last you a lifetime. Just
see, that rolls me into asking you about your fascination with Harbor Freight, because if I buy Harbor Freight sockets, I'm going to smash them with my fingers. I mean, they're just the tools that I have bought from Harbor Freight are just in a pinch emergency. I got to have something quick, and this is what's handy. Not I'm planning to build a house, so I'm buying the nice stuff and putting money into them. So that brings me, that segues, as the kids like to say, into where did your fascination with Harbor Freight come from?
You know what? I'll say, when we went to Harbor Freight, the first thing I said to him was like, why are we in here? Because it reminded me, like, I don't think you guys have it, but we have a store up here called Princess Auto. And it is absolutely like, it kind of reminds me of a store where they just get a whole bunch of yard sale stuff, and then
like a dollar store for for guys.
And we went into Harbor Freight, and I was like, everything in here looks like it's junk. Why are we in here? And he just had to go down there, but there was nothing appealing in there for me. But
when you're a kid and your parents tell you you can't have a cookie until you finish your supper, or you can't, you know what I mean, right? So for me, and of course, my obsession came from the fact that I'm a Canadian. We don't have Harbor Freight up here. I continuously hear from my American friends about the good deals they get. So it's like, if somebody tells you can't have something, it just makes you, it's like somebody say, don't think of a pink elephant. Well, the first thing you think of is a damn pink elephant, right?
Right.
And so for me, it was, I kind of wanted to test the waters and see what was there. Now, I'm a DeWalt, or maybe you don't, but I'm a DeWalt guy, have been for a lot of years. But there's some things that I just don't use a lot. One of them's a jigsaw. One of them's a sander, because I don't do woodworking. So I really don't want to go out and spend $150 or whatever on a cordless DeWalt jigsaw or a cordless DeWalt sander. But the Bauer is kind of a good in-between. Plus, of course, running a YouTube channel, most tools will pay for themselves eventually if they're on there long enough. But I was really excited about just trying some of this middle of the road stuff, because I've never experimented with the cheaper tools. And of course, my buddy Chicken Hawk from Chicken Hawk Farmstead on YouTube, he loves Harbor Freight. So I wanted to try it. And I would say, and the Predator generators are really worth the money. Really.
Tell the truth. The only reason why I wanted to go was because of the generators.
Absolutely.
But then he gets suckered into all these deals with the tools.
Yep.
And honestly, I'm not a Home Depot person, but I would shop at Home Depot before I would Harbor Freight.
But yeah, I would say everything I've bought has lived up to my expectations, except for the small, what I would call Dirt Devil style vacuum I bought from there. That thing, normally if you say a tool sucks, it's a bad thing, but in this case, it doesn't suck and it's a bad thing. So, but the cordless hand or cordless portable shop vac I really like. So, and that's where it came from. It was I can't have it. I have no access to it, so I really want to try it.
Well, I guess that makes sense.
It was like,
But
go
it's
ahead.
there. Well, the closest one to me is about a 30-mile drive one direction, and it's interesting to go there. They have some neat little stuff. They have a few odd things that, um, certain kind of magnets with hooks on that I like
Yeah.
to use in the kitchen to put pot holders and stuff on, and utensils and things that I can hang up, and just little oddball. I like. They don't last very long, but some of the little solar lights that I like to put out in the flower
Yep.
beds and stuff that you can
Stuff you
get,
like.
things like that. Yeah. So there's some of that, and they've always got different size tarps, and you're always needing a tarp, and you can get they have the little coupon where you can get the furniture blankets, like the moving furniture
Oh yeah.
blanket thing, and those come in handy for all kinds of weird stuff.
I love my moving
That
blankets. Don't I?
you
Yep.
put them in the back for your dogs when you're traveling with your
Yeah.
dogs, and let them keep them off the back of your car seats and stuff. But so they have some oddball stuff like that. But I never did feel like their tools were that, really
I would
great.
say
Well,
I
now
would
you've
not.
talked about the Bauer, and I mentioned it to my
Yes.
husband. He says, Bauer? What Bauer? I said, yeah, that's supposed they have them. He said, I don't remember ever seeing them, but they are there. I've seen them. So, but he just wasn't looking for them.
I wouldn't buy any hand tools there. You can tell that I'm not I mean, whatever, I think it's Pittsburgh or something brand, but if I'm gonna buy a hand tool, I want to buy it for life hand tool. So it's going to be a Stanley or a DeWalt or a Milwaukee, something that I think, okay, I could run a tank over it and it'll still be good, because Becky invented the term many years ago that a tool needs to be Tim proof, because I break shit all the time. And so, I don't buy cheap hand tools anymore. But and that goes for ladies as well. If you're, no matter if you're going to use something a little or a lot, it doesn't hurt to buy something that's going to last forever, because the last thing you want to do is hurt yourself when you're trying to install something and something breaks, right?
Well, I'm rough on things too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like with me, it's more like, and it's not purposely on rough, but like you set it down and it drops. And sometimes it falls further than you want. You're like, oh boy, but as long as you can pick it up and it's not cracked and it can still work, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I've messed up several cheap flat screwdrivers, because they do great for a while, but then when you really get in and you really got to screw in there for a while, and you really have to put some torque on there, it just the tip end of it just bends and it's like slinging across the room.
And you don't even realize you're doing it. You're just jamming it in there, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm way stronger than I thought I was. It's all twisted up.
Yeah, you're not stronger. It's just junk. But let me ask you this. Now, I have watched the video, but for some of my folks that may see this replay later, or maybe listen to the podcast, if I can, whittle this down enough. I rent a room out of my house as a B&B, and I started it on Airbnb. And so I was really, really interested when you did that little test of the hotel locks.
Yeah. We've had fun with it. Everybody loves those. Yeah.
So now my room upstairs has one of the old skeleton key door. So you can't use it. It's been painted over 1,000 times, and it's painted open, so it doesn't lock. So I did put a chain lock on it on the inside of the room for basic protection for whoever's staying there. But because the doors are original, so I'm not going to be putting a big fancy deadbolt or anything on these 100-year-old doors. But I was very fascinated by those. And did you find any of the ones that fit inside the deadbolt that wouldn't bend. I know that Becky had the favorite that went under the doorknob, the big,
You like that
the
one?
pole part.
Well,
I know and then you had the wedge that went under the door. But did any of those that actually fit on the lock itself
Yes.
stand up?
Oh, I can't. Oh my God, my brain's
That's
not
okay.
working.
And then I asked you
Well,
out of the blue anyway.
The,
No,
pro- the problem I found with like you're talking about the ones that go with the
Like
door.
that little shim wedge.
Yeah.
I could not get those to work.
There's
Really?
a learning curve with them,
Yeah.
and they'll work with some doors.
Mhm.
Adelock, that's the name. So the first one that I tried was a Chinese import. The thing was made out of about 3 layers of tinfoil. And if you've
Mhm.
seen the video,
I
it
did.
didn't take me anything to bend it in half.
Right. You
And
just
it
did
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
it didn't work. It just didn't hold up, and it was shaped weird. Anyway, so I had a lady who messaged me from Australia. She said, I used to work for the original company that invented it, but the problem is either the patent or something. So there's a ton of knockoffs on Amazon.
Yeah.
So if you buy one, you need to look for the one that says ADDA, ADA lock. And if you get it, it's going to have Adelock printed on the metal. It's going to be about 1/8 of an inch thick, much thicker than the other stuff. And it's going to come with a little carry bag.
Now, did you get a hold of one of those yourself?
I did, and it worked
Okay.
a lot better. Now, the
Okay.
problem is like she said, you need to practice with them. And the other thing is they don't work on every door.
Mhm.
They have a couple different holes in them. And if you go in and slide them up and down, eventually they'll latch. But that's why you like kind of the
under the door one. 'cause
yeah.
It was easy for me to get it up, and it was easy to wedge it under the door.
Mhm.
And you don't have to have a lot of strength behind it.
Yeah.
But the other one, if you haven't practiced on it and you can't figure out how to do, I couldn't figure out how to get it to work.
But if you can find one that will work for your door, it's good. But the problem is if you have people coming, every day or every week, you have a new person,
Mhm.
they're going to have to learn how to use it each time. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that there was that, and then I thought, well, of course, I know that I'm not going to be going in on anybody, and there's not going to be anybody else here except my husband and I. But it might offer a little more to someone who's nervous about, because
Yes.
a lot of the folks that stay with me, especially if they're my age or so, they haven't ever stayed at one before, and they've picked us out because we're close to their age. We
Sure.
do some of the similar things, so they feel a little more comfortable. And a lot of times it is a woman traveling alone that will stay here. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I could offer that because I'm sure people feel a little nervous because that little brass chain isn't going to hold back somebody that really wants in that door. But I was wondering, what you thought. And the now the wedge is just an alarm, isn't it?
Well,
went
no, the
under the
one we
door?
had, I liked it, but the problem is that after we used it once, I can't get it to thread back in. So I think by pushing on it, I think we bent it. So,
Oh,
and it was a good one. It was expensive. It was
Was
like
that the-
30, the little red one that slid under the door and you tightened it into place.
Okay, I
Um,
like the big white one.
Yes. So she liked the I want to call it the barricade or the battering ram style one. She liked that a lot. But
yeah.
the one we had, now there are some that are an alarm, and I've had some people who have mentioned just using a wood wedge, which
Mhm.
would work too. But the one we had looked like a door stopper. You slid it. Here, the animals running.
That's all right.
Looked like a door stopper. You slid it under, and
Yeah.
then you tightened a wing nut, and it
Yeah.
forced it up,
Oh,
so the
that
door
one.
couldn't open. It was great. It was hard on your hands.
It was
right?
hard on my hands. Yeah.
But I believe I ended up bending the thing because it won't work anymore. So
Oh,
I don't know. It was a nice one, and I think it was simple. Right?
It was, well, it wouldn't, I found it took forever on the carpet.
Yeah.
Because it kept sinking into the carpet. So you had to keep turning
Oh.
and turning and turning. And
yeah,
then
because you
you
got
have
the
to be a
carpet
little bit-
pad and stuff, and
you have to
smashing
get
down in the carpet
stronger
pad.
and you have to get stronger and stronger and stronger as you're turning. And by the time it was all like, I'm like, no, I can't do this. Would spend more time doing that than you would anything else. And that's why I like the little white one. You just, a couple buttons, you click it, goes underneath the door handle, and it stayed there.
And the one she had. So, of course, for us, we were looking for something in my mind that you could throw into a carry bag hop on a plane and go with it, right? So that's why I like that little
Yeah.
lock. But it turned out I never even thought it. She liked the fold up bar. But if it were something for you where you're keeping it in a bed and breakfast room all the time, they
Mhm.
sell a rigid one that doesn't have any moving parts or a lot less moving
Mhm.
parts. So you
Yeah.
can just hang it on the wall and say, hey, here you go. Because I think of all of them, that is the strongest lock of the bunch.
Mhm.
Because years ago, a few years back, I had to break down a door to a bank property that a crackhead had gone in and barricaded, and he used something very similar to what that was, and I had to hit it on the hinge side about 4 times with a sledgehammer before I could get through the door. So
See, then that makes me then you're thinking fire escape,
that's
or
yep.
if something's wrong, then let's say somebody, just for the conversation, somebody has a heart attack or stroke or something and just falls over in the room and you got to get in there.
You're not getting in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Of
easily
course, then
anyway.
you're going to have, you call the fire department, they chop the door down.
Mhm.
There's always a trade-off with security.
Mhm. Sure.
Every time you up your security, you lower your convenience, right?
Yeah.
So every time you add a layer of security into anything, it always makes things a little less convenient.
Well,
But
yeah.
so you need to figure out where your happy medium is, right?
Yeah.
Is a door lock enough, or do you want to have something as an option for your patrons, right?
Yeah. Let me think. The husband likes to watch YouTubes of these guys who they work on cars and stuff all the time. And I don't know how I come across this one, and you may or may not have ever heard this before, but one guy took a car battery and a couple of cables and an inverter
Mhm.
and used it to start the fan and stuff for his gas household heat stove,
Yep.
when the power was out.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? Have you that I mean,
Yeah.
the guy did it. My husband said, "Oh yeah, that probably would work." And I thought, well, I'm just going to ask you because I
So
need things
there's
to ask
oh
you.
yeah, that's right up my alley. But okay, if you don't have the money to buy a generator,
Mhm.
almost everybody has a $40,000 or $50,000 generator parked in their yard, right? And by that I mean your vehicle, whether it's an electric but still the vast majority of us have a gas powered vehicle sitting in your yard.
Mhm.
So you can go to Harbor Freight for $100 and you can buy yourself a 1,500 watt inverter. Now, 1,500 watts is enough to run anything you can plug into a wall, any one item. And that includes something like the blower motor on a furnace, because that's, even though it doesn't plug into the wall, it's hardwired, it's still 15 amps, which is just the same as a toaster or a microwave or, any of that stuff.
Mhm.
So if you don't have the money to buy a generator, you got a half a tank of gas in your vehicle or a tank of gas or a couple of jerry cans on hand, you go buy yourself a $100 inverter, make sure it's at least 1,500 watts, and it has two, you know what I mean by alligator clips, like a
Yeah,
red
yeah.
and a black.
Mhm.
Yep. It's going to look like a little lobster there. So it's going to have two of those on there. So if you can use a clothespin, you can power your house when the power's out. All you do is you hop your hood up, you take that inverter, and you go boop, and you put the red on the red, the black on the black. Now you can run an extension cord and power any one item in your house with the power outage. So here's the thing: if you got a deep freeze, a fridge, a pump, and a furnace, you alternate. You go, okay, I'm going to plug my fridge in for 15, 20 minutes. Then I'm going to move it over to my freezer. Then I'm going to move it over to my pump. And then the only thing about a furnace is it would be worth paying an electrician to figure out a way to put a plug on your furnace. The reason for that is most furnaces are hardwired. They run right to your panel. So you can't just go and run a furnace to a generator or to an inverter very easily. So if you go and have an electrician take the power coming out of your furnace and have him put it into a plug that you can plug into the wall, then you can take that plug, unplug it, and then hook your generator into that or your inverter. So you could run your furnace as long as it's not electric heat. If it's a gas blower or a
Right.
wood furnace, anything like that that runs off standard electricity, you can run it off your car.
See, and I thought, and I watched that. We watched it a couple times because I was asking him questions and stuff. But he took a battery to the
Oh,
furnace
sure. You
itself,
can do that too.
and
Yeah.
then clipped he connected those to the inverter and hit the inverter to something else in the. I wish I could remember just exactly who it was that did it. So, but so his point was, and it very similar to what you've already said, is that he said, I've got everybody around me running, trying to find gas or freaking out for gas for their generators, or freaking out because they don't have power, and I'm going to the store and picking up a battery.
Sure.
Nobody else is buying batteries. I'm buying a battery and taking it and hooking it up.
You just need to figure out how long that's going to run for you, because a standard automotive 12-volt battery, I can't do the exact math right at the moment,
Sure.
but if you ran it straight, you'd probably, I'm guessing you'd only get, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours tops on a furnace. So you'd want to cycle it in and out. And what you're basically doing there is you're creating a battery bank. So you're basically making a solar system without any solar panels on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and you have a very limited amount of power. So if you take 2 or 3 batteries, hook them up together, yeah, you're going to do better with it. The only reason I love the inverter end of things is you just run it when your vehicle's running, so your battery never goes dead. But if you've got a couple of batteries kicking around that are fully charged in your garage, then yeah, take them to the basement, put a little inverter on them, and then run a plug to your furnace. Yeah, it's not hard. Just the thing is, the last thing you want to do is try to figure that out in a power outage.
Yeah, at the last minute.
Yeah, you need to
when
do
you
that
have to. Yeah,
when there's no stress, right? You need to do it on a Sunday afternoon in July when it's a beautiful day out and you have no concerns about your heat running. So
now,
that
see,
way,
Becky, you don't have to drag that generator out of that building.
Exactly. Right.
Oh,
All you need to do is heave a couple of batteries around.
As long as I have enough to run my electric fireplace, I'm good. I don't need to worry about a furnace. Just sit in the living room.
Yeah, I don't know how long it would last, but run an electric blanket on it, maybe.
Yeah,
you can absolutely. And there's another thing, and of course, this is my passion is emergency power. But most people come at it like, how do I run my entire house during a power outage? I want a full-fledged, full backup, whole house generator.
That's me,
right? Yeah,
that's what I want.
Cool. But if you don't have the money for that, think smaller. Think, I had a lady on called the Apartment Prepper on my show a while back.
I've heard you mention her. I need to look. I need to.
She's awesome.
Go
I think
to her
she just changed her name, and I can't remember what she's going by right now. But so she had a plan in her apartment to put up a tent in her living room in a worst case scenario with a small little heater. So instead of thinking, how much do I need? Think, how little can I get by with? So like I said, you don't need something to run your fridge, your freezer, your pump, and your furnace. You need something that can run each one of those for 15 minutes each hour and then cycle through it. Or instead of thinking, how can I run my central air unit in a grid down scenario, think about, hey, can I cool one bedroom with a portable air conditioner so that I don't need a 15,000 watt generator, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't like it, but
I know, but that doesn't mean. Now, here's my thing. That's a starting point for everybody, because most people come to prepping and preparedness on a very limited budget, because everybody's spending all their money on everything else. And so they don't have $15,000 to set up a whole home Generac system yet. But most people can figure out, hey, if I skip one supper out, I can go buy myself a $100 1,500 watt inverter from Harbor Freight. And that's a good start, right? And then get yourself 2 or 3 fuses, because they have an inline fuse in them that burns out sometimes. So that's all you need. And then Start by taking 2 5-gallon jerry cans and filling them full of gas and throwing them in your garage. So now all of a sudden you've doubled or tripled the amount of run time that you can run, right? So just the simple things, because you don't need to have $100,000 in the bank in order to look after yourself if you're prepared. You can start with something simple and small and then build yourself up from there.
Well, I know we had a few years ago a derecho go through, and a derecho, if people don't know, is almost like a hurricane of wind. I mean, it's just it rolled up out of the Midwest, and the weather people had talked about it for a little while, but you don't know. It's a windstorm. We get windstorms, but this was like, I mean, just a big. It was awful. It blew down trees. It was. You remember when, I don't know if you would remember, but you remember when Mount St. Helens exploded and the ash just knocked everything down? I mean, except for the ash. I mean, there was trees and stuff down all over the place. And our area of West Virginia was without power for right at 15 days.
Oh, you imagine.
And Wayne and I, this thing happened on a Friday, and on Saturday morning, we already had vacation planned, and we just, locked up at that time, we didn't have our dogs, and the cats can take care of themselves if you give them food and water. So we went ahead on and headed, because we did a big loop down south, down into Georgia and Louisiana, and come back around up. And, so we took like 8 days or so. So we were gone for the most part of that anyway. But what happened, what people didn't think about at the time, and I don't know, because it hasn't, the same type of emergency hasn't happened since. So you don't know if they've corrected this, but the gas stations had no backup generators.
Yeah.
So they couldn't pump gas because the pumps wouldn't work.
Right.
There's no electric and they're full, they've got all this gas underground, and they can't. So people were, they were trying to get gasoline. They couldn't get it because we've got it, but the pumps won't work. So I was trying to keep in touch with my dad and my mom, and my mom was still living at the time. She was diabetic, and I was really worried that she'd keep her insulin cold. And I had told him, I said, I'm not sharing this information with anybody, but we've got the motorcycles. There's at least a couple gallons of gas in each motorcycle. Cut the lock off the building that they're in and siphon that gas out if you need to. And, if you have to, if it's that bad, tear the lock. I don't think the locks on the gas tanks had a key. I think maybe his did at the time. I think his had a key lock, but mine didn't. But Dad said, we're good for now, because he had a couple of older vehicles that had fuel in them that he could siphon the fuel out to run a little generator. But yeah, it was freaky, because nobody thought about that. What are you going to do when the gas stations have no gas, no power to, pump gas? And it was a big wake up for a lot of people.
I mean, number one, if you're going to go with gas, keep a little gas on hand as safely and as you can. But another thing to think about is something like a propane generator. They cost about the same. And what I love is, if you have natural gas in your area, get yourself a natural gas generator, because unless it's an earthquake or a fire, your natural gas is going to stay on even if the power's out.
Yeah, I think it may have been on today's show. Nicole and Jack and John do that show once a week or so. And it may have been on today's show where they were talking about that. But I've heard them talk about it before, about, but, the natural gas station company, they got to have electricity to get the gas out, and if it's in the winter, if the moisture in the gas itself freezes and all this. But one of the things that one of the redundancies with the natural gas companies is that they can switch their generators to natural gas to produce the electricity to pump the natural gas. So,
which makes sense.
Yeah. So, and that's something that the husband and I had talked about before, because he was adapting an old generator, and I've never used it yet. It's still out in the shop. he hasn't brought it out. He just got it converted over, and that I asked him. I said, "But does it ever go out?" And we had that conversation. He said, "Well, no, because in their emergency scenarios, if they lose electricity, then they just turn everything over. They turn the natural gas on and start the generators up. And once you get that started, then it can keep going." And so that was one of the things that I always wondered about myself. But
can it go out? Sure, yes, but
yeah,
it's way less likely. I mean, in
right.
our personal experience, we've lived a decade in Alberta,
Hmm.
and we lose power once, maybe twice a year. And in 10 years, we haven't lost natural gas. Now, that doesn't mean it won't happen.
Right.
And every time I say this, there's going to be some Yahoo who's going to comment on it and say, but the government's going to turn off the natural gas. Well, you know what? If they do that, you got bigger friggin' problems than
Yeah,
that.
because the government's got to run itself.
Right.
They got to have their own. I mean, they only have so much fuel to run. If the grid goes down, then the government's down too. Even if they have generators, they've got to have some kind of fuel for that generator. So, yeah, that's kind of like Y2K when it was when
I
everybody
love
was all
white.
freaking out. I was a little nervous about it because, of course, I
Yeah.
was still fairly young, but so I put back a couple days worth of water. I wasn't too terribly upset about it because in my mind, the way I was looking at it was big business isn't going to lose money.
Right.
The gas station, the gas companies, the Mobiles and the Exxons, they're not going to lose money. There'll be fuel. There'll be
Oh,
fuel.
yeah.
The electric companies, they're not going to lose money. They'll be they're not going to let this sneak. They were ready, and we found out that it was. Plus, you didn't stop to think that over in China, it wasn't the same year. So
That's true. That's a good point.
they already had passed 1999 a long time ago. So, but so that's probably I've heard you and different ones mention, when did you really first start trying to pray? I think you were talking about your stickers or your
Oh, yeah. I
patches.
don't have
Your
one here. Yeah,
patches. Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Prepping since 1999. I won't claim that as much, but I've always even when I was first married, I shopped for the long term because I couldn't. We didn't have a car,
We did.
so we had to take the taxi. So we needed to shop, as much as we could put in the taxi because we couldn't afford the taxi every couple of weeks or every few days to go back to the commissary, and so we'd have that sucker loaded down. And but then I got in the habit of shopping big like that, and even when my children were young, it was, I'd be going through the store with 2 buggy loads because
Sounds like us.
I wasn't coming to the store every Saturday. This is not going to happen. And so I've done that, but um, I've been, dehydrating and home canning and stuff like that for decades. So
I mean, what was our first vehicle, baby?
It was a Dodge Neon.
Very tiny. We used to
yeah,
take
yeah, I know those. Yeah.
we used to take 3 kids.
Yeah.
We took 3 kids, a dog, to town to get groceries and
Yeah.
chicken feed, and we'd come home in a Dodge Neon and have enough to last us a month.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
your
I
toilet
don't-
paper, baby.
I don't understand. I don't understand when you look at these people that have the big families, like that have all the kids, and they purposely only buy enough groceries to last from Saturday to Saturday. I can't comprehend that at all, because like if you have 5, 6, 7 kids and you're only buying enough groceries to last for 7 days, to the point when you're on that 7th day you have nothing. I can't comprehend that at all.
I don't either. I never wanted to run out,
Well,
and not
that-
have something.
And the cost
Yeah.
of it, of going out every week and spending $500-$600, because that's how much like you're using in a week, as opposed to
Yeah.
stocking up when things are on sale and having a surplus
And
of things.
Some of it may very well be the difference in basic education, I had full blown home ec class in 7th grade. I mean, from sewing to cooking and check writing and bill paying and all that, everything in between. I had that. So I not only with my mom and my grandmother, and how they were shopping and stuff, but I had that as part of my basic education in public school. And but they did away with that so long ago that I don't
Right.
know. I mean, they don't even kids. I say kids, it's just me. I'm 57. It's kids. Everybody's a kid. You don't coupon anymore. You barely use these, the apps that help get you a little discount, here and there. And people, it's just they don't. When I was a young wife at Fort Hood, Texas, generics were really generic. They were white with black letters. There
Yep.
was no logos. It was, if you had a box of mac and cheese, it said macaroni and cheese in black letters on a white box. That was it. It wasn't Kroger brand or Safeway brand or some other store brand. It just was black and white. That's all it was. And it was 3/4 of the price of, off of where if the brand name was $1, it was 25 cents a box. So they were true generics back then. And you don't see that in today's world. And these young people, they've got money for the tattoos. They've got money for the nail, the fingernail. And I don't care if you want to be tatted up. That's fine. I don't care. But I have a relative whose mother pays for his tattoos, and he's 20-some years old.
Oh my God.
And those tattoos are expensive, and she doesn't make much money. So they've got the money for the tattoos. They've got the money for the artificial nails. They've got the money for the artificial eyelashes and all of this other stuff that these kids are doing, but they don't have
Yep.
money to feed themselves or their kids or to buy birth control or whatever.
Well, we grew up with my grandmother grew up through the Depression.
Sure, yeah.
So and of course, and her mother, like in their family, didn't have a lot of money. So the only time my grandmother ever had vegetables or produce is when she went to her uncle's farm when they lived in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the only time she ever had fresh produce.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole childhood, I used to spend a lot of time at my grandmother's house, and she had a pantry in her basement.
Mm-hmm.
And she would stock up constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And like my grandfather passed away very, very young. So my grandmother was a widow for quite a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But she would stock up so much that I could go grocery shopping. When I lived on my own, I would go and I would grocery shop in her pantry.
Sure.
But she had 4 deep freezes and filled
Mm-hmm.
to the brim with stuff. And I remember when she passed away in 1998. And we cleaned out her deep freezes. She had meat. And so I believe it was from like probably the early 80s. And it was on the bottom of her freezer, but she just kept buying.
She couldn't get down to it. Yeah. That's why I don't like a chest freezer. I hate a chest freezer.
Yeah, she was just so terrified of running out.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was just constantly, she was terrified of not having, she was terrified of running out. And I took a lot from that. But I also, my home ec was growing up what I call poor school because my parents lived like we grew up on pensions. We moved around a lot. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and it was like there was 3 kids, and it was buy groceries once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we always ran out of groceries about the middle of the month.
Yeah.
And then it was basically you're scrounging looking for things to make meals with. Like I'll give my mom, like she was pretty good. She always had meals. And then when we had our kids, I was like, nope, we're not doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We are not going to be the middle of the month and basically scrounging to try to make our kids a meal, and it's not going to happen. And then we just started prepping
Toilet
Yeah.
paper and
toilet
laundry
paper,
soap.
laundry soap,
Yeah. Yeah. Now
like just everything.
my dad worked for the coal mines, and he made a good living. Um, but what would happen is every 4 years they would go on strike for a new contract, and there were times when the strikes would last 6 months or more.
Oh,
So then you are and my paternal grandparents lived next door to us, and uh, they thought it was awful if my dad would go get unemployment because you could do that after a few weeks. When they were on strike, you could go get unemployment. And dad's like, I paid into it. I'm going to draw it out. It was just a disagreement between the two of them because my paternal grandparents came up in the Depressions. My grandfather, did not believe in, yeah, you may pay your taxes and stuff, but you don't get welfare. You don't get food stamps. You don't get, the government subsidies and stuff. But I never knew the difference. My mother wasn't the greatest cook, but there was always food. And I never realized that, when we had egg noodles with gravy, brown gravy, it was because she didn't have anything else to fix. It just was part of, that's just what we ate sometimes. And so I never really understood those times when there wasn't much in the house to eat, you know. And mom never, she didn't try to teach me to cook. So I taught myself all that stuff. And it's just because she wasn't taught by her mother. Mom was a change of life child, and her mother was older and not well and wasn't able to teach her things. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. So then when I'm a young wife living at Fort Hood, Texas, and I'm 17, as my opening for the podcast talks about, we're eating pinto beans 3 days a week. I've got a small pressure cooker, not a canner, but a small pressure cooker, and I'm fixing a whole pot of these pinto beans. We're eating them 3 or 4 days in a row, and then we'll have spaghetti one day, we'll have hot dogs one day, we'll have chicken one day. So
Right.
that's it's a wonder we didn't die of malnutrition. But this is what we're eating, and we're drinking Kool-Aid, because you get a pack of Kool-Aid for $0.25, and a couple of cups of sugar, was about a dime. So you got a gallon of Kool-Aid for 50 cents or so, and iced tea, because a couple of bags of tea leaves are 10 cents or so if you buy it in the box. And so this is how we're living. And my mother was coming unglued. I'd call back in the day when you had to pay for long distance calls. She was coming unglued. I worry about you all. You're not eating good. Mom, we're eating fine. We're doing great. So, of course, we were young and in love, and there was not, the whole world was just great, but it really wasn't, but we didn't know any better. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I've got a little cookbook I put together for a friend of mine. She manages it's kind of like a recovery halfway house kind of thing for women, and she only has maybe 6 women at a time. It's very small, and it's a church-based thing, and it's using canned soup for the majority of everything.
A lot of that. A lot of that.
So you use cream of chicken soup to poach eggs in, and you put that over
Ooh.
toast, and it's
Sounds really
very
good.
filling.
That's right up my dad's alley. He'd love that. Yeah.
Well, and I've got a bunch of those, and so each meal uses breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They all use soup and something. It's usually a bread or something. They're fairly filling, and in U.S. dollars, you can feed 4 people for less than $10 a day.
Sure.
So
Cool.
just doing that. Now, granted, the sodium's off the charts, and it's not all of that healthy, but you're not going to die of starvation,
Yeah.
And so when you're really tight, when your money's really tight, make it. You can make it. I'll get a PDF to you on that.
I'd
got
love
that.
it. I'll share.
I've
it
actually
around.
got it. It's actually on Etsy, but I'll get you PDF and you can look at that. And there may be, I don't know the income levels of the folks, the parents in your daycare, if they're
Actually, good
low,
idea.
middle, high,
Yeah.
or not. Did you can
Yeah,
share
I
it
would
with
say,
some of those that
yeah.
are
Definitely. Yeah.
that
No,
are
that'd be good
Well, we provide meals at the daycare, so
in the afternoon.
In the
Yeah.
afternoon,
Yeah. And
yeah.
breakfast too. So
but
I got to share one more thing before I forget, because
Oh, sure, yeah.
we were talking about hanging pictures, and because I know we'll end up, and I won't mention it, but the 3M Velcro strips, we buy them on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Those
command
hooks. Thank you. They're command hooks. They're Velcro strips. If you take both pieces, stick them together, and then stick them on the back of a picture, you make sure where you want it, you stick it to the wall, it's done. There's no putting screws or nails or nothing.
I can't use a hammer.
He loves them.
No.
I have used those in offices when I was working outside the home, where you can't drive a nail because, well, one of the places I worked was an industrial park, and the walls of my office were metal, so I could use magnets all day long, but you couldn't dare put a nail through there. But now where I live now, the house still has a lot of the old masonite in it.
Oh yeah,
and of course it's painted over, and I have only tried that once with the 3M type stuff, and it peeled off. It pulled.
You got to be careful. It's really good on drywall, but yeah, you got to be careful.
So, and this masonite, I don't know exactly what it's made of, but I'm afraid to ask. So
don't disturb it; you'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of have to sometimes, but I just, it's the it looks like paper flakes, like
yeah. The older stuff wasn't real good. Let's put it that way.
Well, no, yeah, I know that. And then there's a couple spots where the original Lapboard shows.
Yeah.
And we've highlighted that. And then the my kitchen and my bathrooms were added later, obviously, because in 1920 didn't have indoor plumbing in this part of the world. And they're very cold. They're not insulated at all. But in the bathroom, we have exposed the original outside cedar siding in one section behind the toilet, so it's got that gorgeous brown looking cedar wood behind it. It's really
Our
neat.
old place had horsehair insulation.
Yeah, it did.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it had horsehair in it. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it wasn't
keeps the horses warm.
Yeah, it wasn't very appealing, especially when you're like knocking walls down. You're like, what is that? And you're pulling out all this horsehair. It was pretty gross.
It's amazing what they used to build places out of.
Oh yeah,
it's absolutely amazing.
Definitely would burn up pretty quick, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh, if this place.
Yeah.
Then we've still got the original floors, and if this got lit just right, oh sweet mother, it would be probably 4 minutes and it's gone.
Oh yeah,
it's dry, and but yeah, it would be. And the fireplace, it had two sides to it, but it has this gigantic base in the basement. It's just huge down there, and somehow I have yet to find anybody that will take it out for us. And the longer we can't get anybody to take it out, the more stuff I pile up around it. So I'm gonna have to have a small travel trailer or U-Haul or something to clean the basement out if we ever find anybody to take it out. But we really need to get it out of there because the bricks for the fireplace are starting to come loose and stuff because the mortar's all dried up, and with the fireplace you can't use it anymore anyway, so it's just decorative at this point. But I don't know that I have. We've been an hour and 40 minutes almost, which I can talk now. I'm telling you.
We can too. So.
We can too.
No, I appreciate. This was a lot of fun. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Oh, anytime. The only other thing that I really wanted to ask you about was how in the world do you manage and I heard your show. I don't know if you recorded it yesterday, but I heard it yesterday. You were talking about your social media, and I was listening to it. I was streaming it on Fountain, um, and that's when I heard you mentioned that we were doing this on Wednesday, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute,
I get my
did I
days
mess
mixed
up?
up. Not bad that way. Yeah.
I do the same thing. I do the same, and I'll put them down wrong on the calendar, and know full well that that's not right, and I'll still have them wrong. But so I was listening to that, and I'm thinking, he's almost as bad as I am. You have a lot of different social media accounts or apps than I do. I mean, we've got the same big ones, but you've got I don't know if they're local to your area or not, um, but how in the world do you manage? I mean, I I used to be okay with that, but then now I've got so many different between um, the big ones, the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube, and the Twitter, and add to that the MeWe, add to that to the Telegram, add to that. Um, I mean, TikTok. I,
You got
ha-
to
I
have systems. That's what it comes down to is
Yeah.
when you start. So don't ever jump on a whole bunch of things at once. Start with two or
Oh
three and
yeah,
get
no,
used to
yeah,
that, and then add one more. Because each time you add one, for me, the same post goes everywhere, right? So
yeah.
it creating the post is what takes the work.
Hmm.
So, creating an Instagram post takes the work, but
Right.
then copy and paste. So it's copy and paste to Facebook, copy and paste to Float, to MeWe,
Hmm.
to the YouTube community, whatever it happens to be. Short, same thing.
Hmm.
Making the short is the work, but then it just goes to TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, right? So get yourself a system and get used to it, and then follow it, and then you just do it. It becomes part of your routine.
So I'm counting. Just looking at my little folder. I've got 27. Now this isn't. I didn't just get 27 this week. I mean, this has been over time. So I've got the Facebook and the Truth, and I've got the Hootsuite. Well, Hootsuite's not really a social media in itself; it's an app. But the Twitter and the LinkedIn and the Instagram and the freesteading. I've got that in the MeWe. I've got in the Parlor and the Public Square. I mean, I've got all, and it's just like this is just insane. At one time, I used Hootsuite to populate multiple social media accounts. But when I started doing that, it was $5 a month.
Yeah.
Then here about 2 years ago, they hit me with $60 a month. I'm like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, I'm not paying that. So I let that go. I still have the account because you can still do two for free, and so I can do that. But um, but you can't schedule like
Yeah.
you used to be able to schedule way a lot, but now you can only like have 3 a month or something. So and then some of it I got away from, but this is just a nightmare in trying to
When you first get started, I tell everybody try everything and then
yeah,
find where you get your traction. The ones that you get the best reaction from,
yeah,
concentrate on them and then try a new one. But
yeah.
yeah, that's where I start for sure.
Yeah, I'm at the point now where I'm trying to decide which ones to let go and how long to linger.
Yep. And
Because
that's what yeah.
I know what I do in everything I've done in life. It is not uh, it's not the short, sweet, clear. It's easy to define.
Yeah.
Because I don't fit into the preparedness world real easy because I'm not a homestead. You know,
Sure.
I want to provide an option in that world. I want to provide a place. You guys stop here and stay on your way to and from. It's a safe place to stay. If friendly face. Um, as you travel through. Um, and I do tend conservative, U.S. conservative. I'm not 100% there, but I lean more conservative. And there's in the Airbnb world itself is more of a liberal, progressive world. So, and I've got the chickens and I've got the ducks and, I do my gardens and stuff like that. And so I kind of fit a little bit over here, but then I don't. And then I kind of fit a little over here and then I don't. So I don't fit into one category very neatly at all. So trying to find these spots in these social media applications and I have an account on TikTok, but it's only to figure out that this is not for me.
I love it
I
myself.
I don't know how in the world the stuff that I'm getting fed on there just from starting the account is just some of the nastiest stuff that I've ever seen in my life. It's just insane. So I don't know that I don't know that I'll be taking, messing around in the TikTok world very much at all, but I don't know. But you've got all kinds of people. I mean, you blew up on TikTok straight off the bat.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of years on YouTube honing my craft, so I was able to kind of come across, and I was like, I kind of had an idea of what people wanted, and I just made it shorter, so that
Mhm.
helped a lot,
Okay.
But yeah, everything, whenever you're creating, you, I always laugh when people say, "Oh, it blew up," and now TikTok did, but you got to put your hours, you got to put the grind in to learn
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
works. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
3 years into it, and
Yeah.
that my first year, I had 500 subscribers on YouTube, which is still pretty damn good. But I always
Yeah.
tell, like, the first 6 months, the only people watching were Becky and my mom and my twins, and even she stopped watching. She just turned it on, right? So you got to be willing to put that time in and learn. And then once you get there, then you're like, okay, then it gets easier. Everything gets scalable. You find out you find your voice, you find your
Mhm.
content, you find your audience, and then all of a sudden you can jump to another platform and you're like, oh, I can keep doing what I'm doing, but just a little different.
Mhm.
And I had a video that jumped up and went crazy on TikTok, but TikTok's been good for me. I'll take it or leave it. It's another platform to get eyeballs on my message, and that's what I do, and it works. But it just takes time. Whatever you do, it takes time.
Yeah. Now, Becky, did I hear him say you have a channel?
Not yet. I keep
No.
twisting her arm,
I
but
don't have time.
she doesn't
right
have time
now.
right
Yeah.
now, but she will.
Yeah, I'm working every day, and plus I'm
Yeah.
taking college course.
Yeah, she's doing.
Oh.
Yeah, she's doing
What
2
do-
years of her level 2 and her level 3 daycare.
Yeah, so I'm
Oh,
childcare.
so you're going to get your childcare degree. Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
she's doing basically about 3 years worth of work in about 18 months. So she's
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
you're on the
so,
fast track.
yeah, because I have my level 1 now, but
Yeah.
but I'm trying to get my level 3. So between that and the kids and the daycare and my dogs
Oh, honey, I
and
know.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and one of our dogs just had pups. So
Oh,
yeah,
is
so
it a breed? Or is it a mutt?
no, it's
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua.
Purebred Chihuahua.
Yeah, and they're
My
so
mother
sweet.
had a Chihuahua.
We have 8 of them right now.
We have 8
so.
of them
Oh,
right
man.
now. but like I would love to do a channel, but I honestly I don't even know where I would find the time right now.
So for right now, she comes on with me on
Yeah.
occasion, and we have fun.
Well, that's great. I've enjoyed having her.
We might
I-
end up making it a once a week thing eventually. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
would
that
like
would be
to do
good.
my own channel for because like I have a lot of like just for like for kids and prepping and
Amazon purchases.
Amazon purchases
Mhm.
and reviews. I'd love to do all that, but I think I'll probably have more time once I'm done school.
Yeah.
Well, we like to tell ourselves that. And then
Well, by that
I know.
time, well, unless of course we end up having a grandbaby by then I definitely won't have any
That's
time.
always
But
possibility.
hopefully,
Yeah, I didn't go to college. I was I was in my 30s and I got my associates. And then once I got my loans paid back for it, I went and got my bachelor's. And I thought, oh, this will be great. Well, it ended up, for a lot of reasons, it didn't do me much good. So I've got
I
this
get it.
bachelor, and it's all paid back. And
I'm not
everything now.
going that far.
I wasn't going to either, but
No, I'm too old. I'm surprised I'm
Mm.
doing it now.
yeah. Well, I had one guy tell me, "Oh, treat it like a car payment. You're always going to have one. Don't worry about it. What are they going to do? Come and get you out of the grave?" And I'm like, "That I don't even like that idea." But no, um, I have used it. It's a business degree, but it really hasn't helped me that much. I haven't gotten back what I spent to get it. But now what you're doing is totally different. Is in daycare. It's something. It's in demand all the time. People need quality daycare. So
Yeah.
and you having your degree will help you understand a lot more about what is all. I mean, you already know this because you're taking the classes, but you'll be able to command higher higher rates, and you'll be able to manage a lot better, and
Well, and
it'll benefit you really
it
well.
helps with owning the daycare too.
Yes.
And like, because it's not something that I want to do forever, but
Right.
because I'm hoping, well, we have our middle girl, she's 21, she's taking the same classes so she can get her
Okay.
level 3.
Mhm.
So we're hoping eventually in the future that my sister and I can back out
Mhm.
and she can run it for us, and basically just kind of
Mhm.
getting away from it. And it's not that I don't enjoy it. Like, I love working with the kids and stuff, and we have a great time.
There's
But
there's a reason we don't have children when we're at certain ages.
I agree. Yeah.
And
So-
yes. So we can be grandparents. No, but I mean, but we're humans are not meant to be childcare forever. I mean,
well,
there's a reason we age, and you move on to the next level in your life, and
and that's the thing, because I've been a mom since 18, so I'm just kind of, you get to that point where you're like,
yeah.
I think I'm done
Yep.
raising kids, right?
So true.
And it doesn't mean I love them any less, like, because our nephew is 3,
Yeah.
and he
I know, but
he's great. Like,
we're
he's so funny.
we're designed that, oh, he's great. Give him back to mom and go about your, and it's
Give him
just
sugar and send him to mom.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, but he's so funny, and like, and we love
Oh,
having him
yes.
around and stuff. But it's just at that point where, like, my house isn't childproof anymore.
Yeah.
And like, because the twins are 12,
Barely
and
Chihuahua proof.
it's barely 12. Like, not like, I have snow globes. I have shelves full of snow globes out everywhere.
Open
And when,
electric outlet.
Grown
and
up
when
stuff.
people bring their kids over, it's like, don't touch my
Grown
stuff.
up stuff.
Like, 10, 15 years
Oh,
ago,
I
I
know,
would never
exactly.
even dreamed of having a snow globe, So,
Now you got 45. So
yeah, like, but you just get to that point where you're just, it's fun, and I like doing it, but I also, it'd be nice just to step away from it too. And we're hiring a new girl too, who's going to have her level 3, so we can.
Well, and as you start spending more time down in the States,
Oh yeah.
you're not going to be up there. Obviously, you can't be.
Yeah,
That's our plan is
so
6 months of the year to be able to do whatever the hell we want to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we'll have our businesses running that way. We'll have the income coming in to take care of it. And the only thing we need is to make sure we have the right personnel there to take care of the stuff that we can't take care of from Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then we're going to enjoy our life, and we're going to build exactly.
Yeah,
well, we enjoy I shouldn't say we enjoy our life like crazy now. Love our life. But that's one of our goals, is to spend more time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be a little bit less busy.
Yeah. Breathing in the freedom air.
you'll always be busy.
Oh yeah, we'll never stop.
Because you're that type of person that you just
true.
you can enjoy a few hours, maybe a couple of days of downtime, but you've always got to be doing something.
Yeah, we remember even when we went to Daytona Beach this year, and we couldn't sit around more than a day or two.
Well, no, we were in the middle of Daytona Beach, and I'm applying to the government for grants, and I'm responding to grant applications, and I was working from the hotel on to Daytona Beach. So, yeah, just kidding.
Next time you're down in Florida, you're going to have to investigate some of the highly illegal but very prominent nude beaches.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if they'd want me.
oh, we went one time. Oh my gosh, there's all in the areas where they are, and you can find the information on them. They have signs up all over the place that says this is not a nude beach. You're not allowed to be naked and all this. But you just, you walk, I don't know, quarter of a mile or so, and everybody's, just there's
Naked.
nothing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I don't think so.
I'm good. I'm good.
it there's all shapes and sizes and colors, and I mean, from the palest pale like me to the people who
blind
looked like they were tanned in the leather shop, that just
lots of them down in Florida.
but it is a very interesting experience to get in the ocean with nothing on. Now, we didn't stay
I've
very
done that
long.
before, but just not around a whole bunch of other people.
Oh, well, no, there wasn't a whole bunch, but there were a few. But it was just it was very interesting. It's one of those things I've checked off. It was years ago, many pounds ago too. It's checked off my list of things to experience in life.
Now,
I don't have to do that again.
I'm not an ocean swimmer. I have a reaction to the salt in the water.
Oh,
So
okay.
I can't do an ocean swim.
Well,
I
I
just enjoy the beach. It's
I
awesome.
understand there are some places in West Virginia, and I haven't been to those yet, where you can they're clothing optional campsites.
Oh dear, that's different.
That's awesome.
I haven't been there yet. I might.
Oh,
No, I
Yeah.
can handle the bugs,
we've-
not the bugs.
Yeah, we've got some now. Yeah, we got some
Yeah.
mosquitoes, that's for sure. But yeah, it's life's fun. You just got to make it that way. You just got to sometimes say, you know what, I'm going to do that once in my life. So, but I won't keep you. We're now coming up on almost 2 hours, and it's absolutely been a blast.
that's been
I
fun.
do.
Glad
I can talk like this for days. It's a gift and a curse at the same time. But I do enjoy your show, your YouTubes, and your podcasts. And like I said, I tend to have the headsets on and the Bluetooth headband on, and I'm walking around and I'm feeding my chickens and I'm washing dishes and I'm doing all the stuff, and it's all playing. And I'm thinking I should be doing something. Well, I am doing something. I haven't stopped doing.
Absolutely.
I'm doing laundry and I'm doing all these other things. So, but it's been fun, and I'd love to do it again anytime. And we can flip it if you want to, and reverse the roles a little bit if you want to, or not.
Oh, I'd love it. That'd be
You're
great.
not going to gain anything from me
Yes,
at
I
this
am.
point. But
No, don't ever say that. Don't cut yourself short. I've never met somebody in my life I couldn't learn something from. So
yeah.
remember that. It's true. Everybody has a story. Everybody has something they're passionate about. And as soon as you find that and their eyes spark up, heaven help you. They'll talk all day and you'll learn because they're passionate, right? So yeah.
So, but we'll let her go there, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate it so very much. And Becky, you take care of those kiddos and get good grades. I expect to hear a good report from you.
Oh, she's kicked straight A's. Yeah, she's kicking ass. I'm proud of her. Really proud of her. Really proud of her.
Now that I'm aware, But you guys take care, and I'll let you go now. And I'll see you again on your YouTube soon, and we'll catch up again at some point. Okay.
Thank you, Robin. Appreciate
You're
it.
very, very welcome.
Much. Thanks for having us. It was an honor.
Anytime. Anytime. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There you have it. Post your comments, do all that boosting, liking, sharing, thumbs up, and stuff that helps spread the word and poke the algorithms. Follow me on most of the big social media platforms and look for my name, Robin Holstein, or Holstein House. Till next time, bye-bye.